A man in his early 70s sat across from me, shoulders slumped, eyes distant. He wasn't there for chest pain, prostate issues, or memory loss. He was there for something far more elusive. "Doctor," he said quietly, "I feel like my fire is gone. I'm not sick. I'm just not me anymore." This man had lived a full life, military service, a family, a decades-long career. But now, something had shifted. His energy was low. His motivation vanished. Intimacy felt like a chore, and the sharp edge of confidence that once defined him had dulled into a shadow of who he was. "I get tired faster. I'm not as sharp. I sleep but don't rest. And I feel disconnected from everything." At first glance, his blood work was fine. No glaring medical red flags. But when I asked him a question most doctors never do, "How do you relate to your body when you're alone?" his eyes widened. That conversation unlocked a truth so many older men never hear. Your most private habit may be draining your strength, your drive, and even your sense of identity. I'm Dr. Samuel Hart, a men's health physician with over 30 years of experience helping men reclaim vitality after 60. And in this video, I'm going to tell you the truth few doctors ever will. Because yes, masturbation, something you've likely done most of your life, can silently turn into a habit that steals more than it gives once you reach a certain age. And it's not because pleasure is bad. It's because your body has changed, and the rules are different now. I'll walk you through the 6 most common mistakes older men make when it comes to self-pleasure and how each one can slowly chip away at your strength, your relationships, your hormones, your brain, and your future. And I'll also show you one small change, just one, that could reignite the connection to your body and even restore lost vitality. So if you're a man over 65, or love someone who is, this may be the most important conversation you never knew you needed. Before we begin, take a second to subscribe and hit the bell so you don't miss any honest, age-specific advice made just for men like you. And if what I say resonates with you, drop a 1 in the comments so I know you're still with me. Now, let's begin with the first and most silent mistake of all. Mistake number 1. Treating your body like it's still 40. Ignoring subtle changes that demand a new approach. When most men reach their late 60s or early 70s, they carry with them not only a lifetime of memories and habits, but also assumptions. And one of the most dangerous assumptions is this: if it worked for me at 40, it still works now. But here's what I've seen time and time again. Men continue with the same pace, the same intensity, and the same expectations of their body, even as the body whispers quietly, "I've changed." And when those whispers go ignored for too long, they turn into symptoms. Fatigue, restless sleep, numbness, not just in sensation, but emotionally, irritability, low motivation, and worst of all, a creeping loss of identity. These aren't just old age. They're your body saying, "The way you're using me is no longer aligned with how I function." One of the places this shows up most often, but is rarely discussed, is in masturbation. Men assume it's harmless, a private, natural release. And for most of your life, it was. But after 65, your nervous system is no longer as resilient, your hormones no longer bounce back quickly, and your circulatory system doesn't fire like it used to. Let me explain with an example. Case study: the builder who felt broken. Charles, 71, a retired builder, came to me complaining of insomnia and brain fog. He was active, ate decently, and stayed social. But he just felt off. After ruling out cardiovascular and cognitive decline, I asked a simple question: do you ever feel more drained after self-pleasure than restored? He looked surprised. "I do it maybe once a day," he said. "I always thought it helped me sleep." We ran a full panel: hormones, neurotransmitters, nervous system function. The result: his dopamine levels were blunted. Testosterone dipped post-ejaculation and stayed low longer than average. His cortisol rhythm was disrupted. What Charles didn't realize is that his pattern was quietly burning out his vitality. Because the truth is this: masturbation in your 30s is not the same as masturbation in your 70s. Your skin is thinner. Your nervous system more sensitive. Your recovery time longer. Your brain chemistry slower to replenish. And your cardiovascular system more reactive to stress. What was once a relaxing habit had become, without his knowing, a subtle form of depletion. And Charles isn't alone. How it happens, the invisible decline. When you stimulate your body, especially in a rushed, mechanical way, it triggers a whole-body response. Adrenaline spikes, briefly. Dopamine is released, then crashes. Testosterone dips. Cortisol may rise if your nervous system feels jolted instead of calmed. Blood pressure and pelvic muscle tension may remain elevated longer than they used to. Now imagine doing that several times per week, or even daily. And then imagine not giving your body time to fully reset. What you get is a compound effect of nervous system fatigue, hormone imbalance, and emotional disconnection. All from something you thought was harmless. This doesn't mean masturbation is bad. But after 65, the old approach can quietly erode what matters most: your clarity, your sleep, your drive, your connection to self and others. The warning signs you're missing. If you've ever felt less refreshed after sleep, low energy despite doing nothing wrong, emotionally numb or flat, less interest in sex, even with your partner, tension or discomfort after release, a strange sense of sadness or guilt with no obvious cause, you may be experiencing what I call mismatch fatigue, the body's way of saying, "You're still treating me like I'm 40. But I'm not." But there's good news. This isn't the end. It's an invitation. An invitation to approach your body and your pleasure with a new mindset. To listen. To adjust. To reconnect, not just release. And that's what we'll continue exploring, mistake by mistake, solution by solution, throughout this guide. In the next section, I'll show you the second most common mistake older men make, a mistake that doesn't just drain the body, but reshapes your brain's reward system. If you're still with me, leave a 1 in the comments below so I know this message is resonating. Let's continue. Mistake number 2, treating masturbation like it has no cost. Too much frequency, too little recovery. There's a dangerous myth that follows men into their later years. It goes like this: as long as it feels good, it must be fine. But after 65, biology doesn't work on feeling, it works on capacity. And one of the most overlooked and most damaging mistakes I've seen in my 30-plus years as a doctor is this. Older men use masturbation as if their body still recovers like it did at 25. Let me say it clearly, it doesn't. In your youth, your system was like a battery that recharged fast. Dopamine surged, testosterone bounced back, your nervous system was flexible and adaptable. But after 65, that battery charges slower. Sometimes painfully slower. And most men don't even realize it. Let's talk about the hidden cost of frequency, and why what used to be harmless is now draining the very resources you need to stay strong. The pattern I see again and again. A man walks into my office. Mid-60s, early 70s. No major diseases. Not overweight. Still socially active. But he says something like, "I just don't feel like myself anymore. I wake up tired. I feel low. I'm not motivated to do much. Sex drive. Almost gone. I'm not depressed, doc. I just feel off." I nod. And I ask the question that most physicians are too embarrassed, or too blind, to ask. How often do you masturbate? Almost every time, I get the same reaction. A nervous chuckle. A glance to the side. And then, well, probably every day. Sometimes twice. I ask why. Helps me sleep. Helps with stress. Habit, I guess. But what we find, when we look under the hood, is staggering. Their testosterone levels are unstable. Their dopamine patterns are flattened. Their nervous system is operating in low reserve mode, like an engine constantly revving but never resting. And here's the truth most men need to hear. Every release has a cost. Especially after 65. The science of recovery after 65. Let's break it down. When you climax, your body undergoes a neurochemical roller coaster. Dopamine spikes, then drops sharply. Oxytocin rises, followed by a lull. Testosterone dips temporarily, and in older men, it doesn't always rebound quickly. Prolactin floods the system, which creates the classic refractory period. But in seniors, that period can extend for days. The nervous system enters parasympathetic mode, but if overused, it stays stuck in a foggy, undercharged state. When you were 30, you could bounce back in hours. But now, it might take 2 to 3 full days, or longer, for your body to truly reset. But if you're masturbating daily, sometimes even more than once, you're never letting your system fully recover. You're spending without saving. And over time, this quiet depletion leads to chronic fatigue, flat mood, low ambition, sleep disruption, emotional numbness, and yes, erectile instability. The energy leak you don't see coming. Your body is like a well. If you draw from it too often without giving it time to refill, eventually, it runs dry. But unlike a dry well, your body doesn't scream. It whispers. You don't feel a breakdown, you feel a slow hollowing out. A quiet erosion of who you used to be. And most men never link it back to their habits. They blame age, or stress, or just life. But in reality, they've fallen into what I call the frequency trap. You masturbate not because it's needed, but because it's familiar. Automatic. Easy. But your body, your mind, they're quietly paying a price you haven't noticed, until now. Masturbation as escape, not enjoyment. There's something even deeper here, and I see it more and more. Masturbation as an emotional crutch. Not for pleasure, but for relief. For boredom. For loneliness. For control. But when an act designed for connection becomes a tool for avoidance, the effects go beyond physical. Your body may be experiencing intimacy, but your heart isn't. Your brain is releasing dopamine, but it's also reinforcing a pattern of escape, not expression. Over time, this changes how you relate to yourself and others. You feel less joy, less spontaneity, less connection, because pleasure has become predictable, mechanical, and unmoored from meaning. What recovery actually means after 65. Here's the truth no one told you. Recovery is not optional, it's your survival strategy. And I'm not just talking about rest. I'm talking about neurochemical balance, hormonal recharging, nervous system reset, emotional recalibration. This is the new foundation for healthy aging. And without it, every act of pleasure slowly becomes an act of withdrawal. So what do I recommend? My prescription for recovery. I tell my patients, it's not about quitting. It's about spacing, respecting, listening. Some men thrive with 2 to 3 days between sessions. Others need a full week. There is no magic number, but there is a simple test. Do you feel restored afterward, or drained? Does it uplift your day, or hollow it out? Do you feel clear and connected, or foggy and flat? Your body is wiser than any rulebook. And if you give it a voice, it will tell you what rhythm it truly needs. Recovery is where strength is rebuilt. Recovery is where hormones realign. Recovery is where vitality returns. And if you don't give it that space, you'll keep reaching for relief and finding less and less. In the next section, I'll reveal the third most common mistake, one that isn't about how often you do it, but how you do it, and how that single difference can reshape your nervous system, emotional state, and future capacity for real connection. If this is striking a nerve or opening your eyes, let me know by typing 1 in the comments. It helps me know you're still here, still listening, still awake to what matters. Let's keep going. Mistake number 3, rushing the act without connection. The nervous system doesn't just respond to touch, it responds to meaning. There's a quiet tragedy I see too often in my office. A man, once confident and vibrant, now speaks in vague terms about not feeling much anymore. Not just emotionally, but physically. Pleasure feels muted. Desire feels distant. Even touch, once electric, is now dull, mechanical, routine. And when I ask about his habits around self-pleasure, I usually hear some version of, "It's quick. It's just something I do before bed. It helps me fall asleep. I get it over with and move on." And that's where the third critical mistake lies. Masturbation, when rushed and disconnected, becomes a stressor, not a healer. It's not about morality. It's about neurobiology. Let me explain. Why speed hurts you more than you think. We live in a world of hurry. Quick meals. Quick fixes. Quick gratification. And unfortunately, most men bring this same rush into the most private moments of their lives. The problem? Your nervous system doesn't respond well to speed, especially after 65. Here's what happens when you rush the act. Your cortisol levels spike, yes, even during masturbation. Your blood pressure rises. Your pelvic floor muscles tense and may stay contracted for hours afterward. Your brain fires signals of urgency instead of relaxation. Your nervous system enters a sympathetic state, the fight or flight response. And when this happens regularly, it becomes a pattern. You begin to associate stimulation with tension, not comfort. With escape, not expression. And over time, you no longer feel much at all. Case study: the man who didn't feel anything anymore. Jerome, age 72, was married. Retired. Still in decent shape. But he told me this. "Doc, I don't even think I feel anything when I touch myself. I just do it. Like brushing my teeth." He said it with a shrug, but his eyes said something else. They were heavy. Tired. Hollow. We dug deeper. He had turned what was once a source of joy and release into a task. Quick. Secretive. Numb. It had become part of his nightly routine, done automatically, without thought, without feeling. And over time, that approach had flattened his response system. Touch no longer thrilled him. Connection with his wife felt awkward. He didn't even want intimacy, because his brain had learned to expect only empty stimulation. What happens when you disconnect from yourself? When you treat masturbation as something to get over with, you train your body to rush. You train your nervous system to brace. And you desensitize your brain to the slow, deep waves of genuine arousal. But that's not all. You also disconnect from yourself emotionally. This has consequences most men don't even realize. You feel more irritable for no clear reason. You struggle to sleep deeply. You lose the feeling of satisfaction or closure. You begin to crave novelty, speed, or intensity just to feel something. You stop noticing your own emotional state until it explodes. Over time, this creates emotional shutdown. You're still functioning, but you feel like a ghost of yourself. What your body actually needs after 65. Your nervous system after 65 doesn't want intensity. It wants presence. It needs slowness, rhythm, gentle stimulation, deep breathing, soft attention, connection, not just friction. I tell my patients this. You don't have to make it romantic. You just have to make it real. Put the phone away. Turn off the noise. Breathe. Touch with intention. Notice. Feel. Not just in the body, but in the mind and heart. You'd be amazed what begins to return when you give your nervous system the permission to slow down and truly experience. The rushed habit becomes a personality. Here's the kicker. If you rush in private, you start to rush in life. I've seen it over and over. Men who rush their own pleasure tend to get irritated faster, feel less patient with their partner, struggle with meaningful eye contact, lose curiosity, feel emotionally unavailable. And this doesn't just affect them, it affects everyone around them. Spouses feel rejected. Adult children feel disconnected. Even friendships start to fade. Why? Because rushing intimacy, even with yourself, bleeds into how you relate to the world. And your brain begins to expect every connection to be a transaction, not a relationship. Healing begins with connection. When Jerome made a simple change, just 10 minutes of slower, more mindful touch, once every few days, something profound happened. He cried. Not because of shame, but because it was the first time in years he felt something real. That moment became a turning point. His sleep improved. His relationship warmed. He even started writing poetry again, something he hadn't done since college. And all of it began with a single shift. Slowing down. Being present. Reconnecting with himself. Because when you reconnect with your body, gently, without shame, you reopen the channel to your vitality. You don't need candles or music or rituals. You just need to treat yourself as a person, not a machine. If this is you, Know this, you're not broken. You're not broken. You're not too old. Your fire isn't gone, it's just buried under layers of habit. But you can unlearn the rush. You can rebuild the connection. And in doing so, you can rediscover a part of yourself you thought was lost. In the next section, we'll go even deeper into timing, how the when of self-pleasure can affect your hormones, your sleep, and even your emotional clarity. If this spoke to you, type 1 in the comments. Let me know you're still here, still learning, still alive to the truth. We're just getting started. Mistake number 4. Masturbating at the wrong time. How timing disrupts your hormones, sleep, and mental clarity after 65. Let me ask you something that most doctors never will. When do you usually masturbate? It sounds like an odd question. And for most men, the answer comes quickly. At night, before bed. First thing in the morning. It helps me start the day. It makes sense, right? Late at night, when the house is quiet, what better way to relax? Or in the morning, when you wake up with some energy, why not start the day on a good note? But here's the truth no one tells you. After 65, the timing of your self-pleasure matters just as much as the frequency, and possibly even more. Because when you masturbate at the wrong time, it doesn't just affect your moment, it disrupts your entire biological rhythm. Let me show you how. Nighttime release, the hidden sleep killer. Many older men turn to masturbation as a sleep aid. They say, "It helps me fall asleep faster. I need it to calm down." It's like a sedative. But here's what I see in the lab and in real-life brain scans. Nighttime masturbation often triggers an adrenaline spike, followed by a slow, prolonged rise in cortisol. That means instead of gently easing into sleep, your body enters a short burst of stress activation. You may fall asleep, but the quality of that sleep is shallow. You don't enter deep delta wave sleep, the stage where your brain repairs, your hormones regulate, and your immune system resets. So what happens? You wake up multiple times. Your heart rate remains slightly elevated. You feel unrest in the morning. You forget your dreams. Your energy doesn't snap on like it used to. Worse, this pattern, when repeated night after night, leads to chronic low-grade fatigue. And many men think it's just aging. I guess this is what 70 feels like. No, my friend. It's what bad timing feels like. Case study: the teacher who couldn't rest. David, 68, was a retired high school teacher. He came to me complaining about poor sleep, grogginess, and lack of drive during the day. "I fall asleep fast," he said, "but I wake up feeling like I barely rested." He had no idea what was wrong. No pain. No major medical issues. No new stressors. But when I asked about his evening routine, he mentioned, "I usually, take care of things right before bed." I nodded. We ran some hormone panels. His nighttime cortisol was abnormally elevated. His melatonin levels were suppressed. His testosterone rhythm was disrupted. We tried a simple experiment. He paused all stimulation within 2 hours of bedtime. And within 2 weeks, his sleep improved. He woke up clearer. His energy returned. He said, "It's like I got my brain back." And the only thing he changed? Timing. Morning release, wasting the natural testosterone surge. Now let's talk about mornings. Around 4 to 8 a.m., your body naturally enters its highest testosterone window. This is when your androgen receptors are most active. Your energy circuits begin to fire. Your mental clarity sharpens. It's your biological power hour. But here's the problem. If you climax too early in the day, before your body finishes its hormonal rise, you blunt that surge. It's like popping a balloon before it fully inflates. The result? Flat energy by mid-morning. Reduced productivity. Lower drive throughout the day. Emotional dullness. A lack of motivation to do anything purposeful. I've seen men say, "I start the day strong, then crash by lunch." And they blame diet, or stress, or aging. But when I dig deeper, it turns out they're releasing before the body finishes its hormonal climb. You see, testosterone is like a wave. You're meant to ride it into the day. But if you cut it short, you miss the lift, and spend the rest of the day feeling emotionally and physically blunted. Your body's natural rhythm after 65. The older you get, the more fragile your biological rhythms become. Your hormones don't respond as fast. Your nervous system takes longer to recalibrate. Your neurotransmitters need more time to reset. So anything that disrupts that rhythm, like poorly timed stimulation, throws your whole system off balance. It's like eating a heavy meal right before bed. You sleep, but you're digesting the whole time. You wake up heavy, slow, inflamed. The same happens with masturbation. If the timing is off, everything feels off. My recommendation for timing after 65. If you're going to self-stimulate, here's what I suggest. Avoid it within 90 minutes of bedtime. Avoid it within 90 minutes of waking. Choose a time when your mind is calm, but not tired. Create at least 24 to 72 hours of spacing between sessions. And always ask yourself afterward, do I feel restored or depleted? Listen to the answer. Because your body always tells the truth. Small adjustments, big results. I've had patients who simply changed the time they masturbated and saw better sleep, higher morning energy, fewer mood swings, greater emotional presence, more interest in hobbies and connection. It wasn't a supplement. It wasn't a prescription. It was timing. Because your body runs on rhythms, and when you align with them, you restore balance. But when you ignore them, you start the day at a deficit, and spend the rest trying to catch up. In the next section, we're going to explore a mistake that's rapidly becoming an epidemic among older men. Relying solely on pornography as a source of stimulation. This one doesn't just affect your hormones or nervous system. It rewires your brain, alters your sense of desire, and erodes your ability to connect emotionally and physically with a partner. If you're ready for some hard truths and eye-opening science, I'll meet you there in the next section. If this resonated with you, type 1 in the comments. Let me know you're still here, still reflecting, still reclaiming your power, one insight at a time. Mistake number 5. Using porn as the only stimulus. How digital fantasy rewires your brain and destroys real connection after 65. There's a growing issue I see more and more, especially among older men who grew up in an analog world but aged into a digital one. They never used to rely on screens. They had imagination, connection, memory. But now, they've fallen into a habit they never expected to have. And it goes like this. I don't get turned on by my wife anymore. I don't even fantasize, I just scroll. I need videos. Short ones. Loud. Fast. Different women every time. I can't climax without a screen anymore. And that's the 5th mistake I want to talk to you about today. Using porn as your only sexual stimulus. Now, I'm not here to shame you. I'm here to educate you, because what seems harmless, just a private video, just a little fun, has massive consequences after 65. Let me explain why. Your brain wasn't built for this. When you watch pornography, your brain lights up with dopamine. The images, the novelty, the speed. Each clip, each change, triggers a spike. But here's the catch. That dopamine isn't just about pleasure, it's about conditioning. And over time, you begin to associate arousal only with fast, visual, exaggerated stimulation. Not touch. Not presence. Not connection. Just pixels. Noise. Constant novelty. You train your brain like a slot machine. And eventually, real intimacy starts to feel dull. Case study, I want to, but I feel nothing. Martin, 70, had been married for 45 years. He loved his wife deeply. They still cuddled, held hands, shared stories. But sex? Gone. He told me, Doc, it's not her. It's me. I want her, but I feel nothing. Nothing in my body. Nothing in my heart. When we traced his habits, we found something surprising. He was watching porn almost daily, short, intense videos. Not for hours, but enough. Enough to reprogram his arousal response. His brain had learned to respond only to high-speed content, variety, intensity, unrealistic fantasy. And over time, His sensitivity to real-life intimacy faded. How porn rewires the brain. This isn't opinion. It's neuroscience. When you rely on porn, your dopamine receptors become desensitized. You require more extreme or novel stimuli to get the same effect. Your mirror neurons, the part of your brain that connects empathy and emotion to what you see, stop firing as strongly. You begin to lose your ability to focus, to feel, and even to fantasize without input. It's called arousal conditioning, and it's very real. And for older men, the consequences are even more severe. Because unlike in your 30s or 40s, your brain plasticity is reduced. Once these patterns set in, they're harder to reverse. Not impossible, but harder. It's not just about sex, it's about self. When you rely on porn, the effects go beyond the bedroom. You may experience increased anxiety, loneliness, difficulty sleeping, brain fog, low self-esteem, shame or secrecy, emotional detachment from partners, family, even hobbies. Because what was once a private act of comfort becomes a daily source of self-separation. Not just from others, but from yourself. You lose touch with your inner rhythm, your authentic desire, your ability to sit in quiet without distraction. And the worst part, you don't notice the shift until it's already deep. This is more common than you think. You're not alone. Millions of men over 60, especially those retired, alone more often, or dealing with stress or loss, turn to porn not for joy, but for routine. But here's the problem. What starts as routine quickly becomes replacement. You stop reaching for your partner. You stop using your imagination. You stop asking what you really want, or feel, or need. Because the screen is always there. Always ready. Always intense. And like any addictive cycle, the high gets weaker, while the need gets stronger. The impact on your partner. Even if you're no longer sexually active with your partner, this matters. Why? Because arousal isn't just about sex, it's about closeness, availability, warmth. When your arousal is shaped by digital fantasy, your emotional energy has less space for real life. And your partner feels it, even if she doesn't say it. She feels the distance, the absence, the numbness in your presence. Not because you don't love her, but because you've trained your system to respond only to something not real. How to reverse the cycle? Here's the good news. You can retrain your brain. Even after 65. Even after decades. It starts with awareness, then replacement. Here's what I suggest to my patients. Take a break from porn for 21 to 30 days. Not forever. Just long enough to break the neural pattern. Use imagination instead. Reawaken fantasy, not images. Stories, memories, desires. Slow down. Remove urgency. Let your body lead. Let presence return. Touch yourself with curiosity, not just intent. What feels good today might not be what felt good 20 years ago. Journal your emotions afterward. Not about the act. About your state. Clarity. Guilt. Energy. Connection. Notice what else starts to return. Joy. Dreams. Desire. Attention. Lightness. Even your voice might change. This isn't about quitting porn forever. It's about making sure it doesn't control your arousal template. You're not a machine. You're a man with memory, emotion, and meaning. And those deserve to be part of your pleasure, not erased by screens. In the next section, I'll show you something powerful. Not 5 changes. Not 10. Just one. One small shift that can bring everything we've talked about back into alignment. Your energy. Your peace. Your connection. It's simpler than you think, yet more profound than you realize. If you're still with me, type 1 in the comments below. Let me know you're awake to these truths and ready to change. Let's finish strong. The truth most men never hear. You don't need to do more, you just need to do it differently. If you've followed me this far, I want to pause for a moment and tell you something important, something you may not have heard in a very long time. You are not broken. You are not beyond repair. And you are not too old to feel alive again. The challenges we've talked about, low energy, emotional numbness, poor sleep, weakened arousal, these are not the end of your story. They are signs, not of failure, but of misalignment. Your body isn't betraying you. It's begging you to listen, to adjust, to approach pleasure, connection, and touch not as habits, but as opportunities. And that's where the one small change comes in. Let's talk about it. One small shift. Replace automatic pleasure with mindful touch. For most men, self-pleasure becomes a ritual of habit. Same time, same pace, same mental script, same detachment. But what if you shifted just one element? Not stopped, not judged, just shifted. What if instead of rushing, you slowed down? What if instead of escaping, you engaged? What if instead of zoning out, you tuned in? That's the small change. Trade mindless stimulation for mindful presence. And no, it doesn't mean incense and soft music, unless that's your thing. It means choosing to be present with your own body. To make that private moment a space of care, not just release. Why mindfulness works better after 65. After 65, your nervous system becomes more sensitive. Your hormones need longer to cycle. Your emotions are more easily thrown off balance. Your energy reserves are limited, but incredibly responsive to gentle input. Mindfulness is the language your older body understands best. It's the difference between tension versus relaxation, cortisol versus oxytocin, burnout versus healing, detachment versus self-connection. When you engage in self-pleasure mindfully, you stabilize your nervous system. You reduce inflammatory signals. You restore parasympathetic tone, the system responsible for deep rest and recovery. You increase emotional regulation. And most importantly, you begin to feel like you again. What does this look like in practice? Let's keep it simple. Here's a 5-minute ritual I've shared with hundreds of older men. Some laugh at first. Then they try it. And then they come back with tears in their eyes. Because it works. The 5-minute reset ritual. Set the space. Not perfect. Just intentional. No phone. No distractions. Sit or lie somewhere comfortable. Breathe deeply. 1 minute. In through your nose for 4 counts. Hold for 4. Out through your mouth for 6. Repeat 5 times. Feel your chest. Feel your pulse. Come back to your body. Place a hand on your chest or abdomen. Before you touch anywhere else, start here. Feel your heartbeat. Feel warmth. Let your hand say, "I'm here." Touch with curiosity, not judgment. Explore slowly. With no goal. Notice sensation. Shift rhythm. Let your breath guide you. Ask yourself, what feels good now, not what used to feel good. Pause afterward. 1 minute. Lie still. Let your body settle. No rush to clean up, to move, to distract. Just notice your energy, your thoughts, your emotions. That's it. Not a performance. Not a checklist. Just presence. And when you do this 2 to 3 times per week, your nervous system begins to shift. Your emotions soften. Your energy stabilizes. You start feeling pleasure with your body, not in spite of it. Real stories, real change. A 69-year-old widower told me this practice helped him feel human again. He stopped watching porn. Started journaling. Began dating after 12 years. A 74-year-old veteran said, "I sleep better. I smile more. I even remember my dreams again." A 66-year-old diabetic saw reduced nighttime blood pressure spikes, improved glucose stability, and more intimacy with his partner. And all of them said the same thing. "I didn't need more pills. I needed to slow down and listen." This is about more than pleasure, it's about power. Because here's the real truth. When a man reconnects with his body, he reconnects with his life. And from that place, everything improves. His health, his relationships, his resilience, his clarity, his ability to love, not just others but himself. Mindful pleasure is not about being soft. It's about being strong enough to feel again, to be present, to be alive, to be whole. A doctor's final word. If you've made it this far, I want to thank you. Not just for reading, but for caring. Caring enough to look deeper. To ask harder questions. To face uncomfortable truths. To consider that maybe, just maybe, you deserve more. More connection. More clarity. More joy. More rest. More aliveness. This journey isn't about guilt. It's not about shame. It's about growth. Because masturbation isn't wrong. It isn't bad. It's just that, after 65, it must evolve. Your body has changed. Your needs have changed. And that means your habits must change, too. So here's my challenge to you. Try the 5-minute reset ritual tonight. Just once. No expectations. No goals. Just presence. And then notice what shifts. Maybe your sleep improves. Maybe your mood softens. Maybe, just maybe, your heart opens. And if it does, share this message. With a friend. A brother. A partner. Someone who might be silently struggling and doesn't know where to turn. Let's normalize this conversation. Let's give older men permission to feel again. To heal. To thrive. Because your story isn't over. In fact, it may just be beginning. If this video spoke to you, drop a 1 in the comments. Subscribe for more real, age-specific health advice. And never forget, you are not too old. You are not too late. And you are never beyond the reach of renewal.